When Lil Wayne said that sleep is the cousin of death, he wasn't lying. Sleep quite literally is the cousin of death. What's going on, guys? Nick Boletto here, back with another video. In today's video, we're gonna talk all about sleep. So in order to talk about sleep, the first thing that we must do is define sleep. And sleep is essentially defined by two characteristics. One is that sleep is reversible, so essentially you can come out of being asleep. And the second is that you are not responsive to external stimuli. So I'm gonna put a picture up on the screen right here that is sort of a graph of the states of consciousness. Sleep is somewhere between a quiet wakefulness and a coma. It's different from quiet wakefulness in that when we're asleep, we are not responsive to external stimuli. However, when we are quiet and awake, we are. And sleep is different than a coma in the sense that it is a higher degree of reversibility. And if you continue to look at this chart, we see that when Lil Wayne said that sleep is the cousin of death, he wasn't lying. Sleep quite literally is the cousin of death. So now that we have a working definition of what sleep is, we can talk about what sleep's function is. So a 2008 study sought to actually find what the essential function of sleep is, and it was sort of discovered that sleep doesn't have a singular essential function. And so the study ended up turning into, well, if sleep doesn't have an essential function, is it just one of those things that is extremely useful for animals? And if that's the case, then there are three sort of groups of animals that we should be able to find. One being groups of animals that don't sleep at all, because if it's just highly beneficial, then not every animal would use it. Two, we would find animals that do not have repercussions for not getting enough sleep or not sleeping at all. And three, we would find animals that don't try to make up for a lack of sleep. Essentially, they studied all of the sleep papers that have been generated looking at all different types of animals, and they were not able to find any animals that fit into any of those groups. Because they were not able to find animals that fit into those three groups, they were able to conclude that even though we don't know what sleep's essential function is yet, we think that there still exists an essential function to be found. While we still don't know what sleep's essential function is, we are very aware with the detriments that occur during sleep restriction or sleep deprivation, and I'll list some of those on the screen right now. So we see that a lack of sleep or a restricted amount of sleep seems to negatively affect almost everything that we do as humans. But this being a fitness channel, I'm going to focus on the decreased athletic performance portion of sleep detriments in the rest of this video. So when talking about sleep's effects on athletic performance, we can break athletic performance down into three components: the actual training, your recovery, and the psychological component to athletic performance. The first component we're going to focus on is the actual training aspect and how sleep affects the training. So sleep restriction has been shown to actually not have a very strong effect on high intensity or maximal effort exercises, especially in maximal weightlifting tasks. So 1 rep maxes and other high intensities, maybe more than 85% of your 1 rep max for few reps may actually not be very strongly affected by sleep restriction. With that being said, muscular and anaerobic power are negatively affected by sleep restriction. We know that power is work divided by time, and we know that work is force over a distance. So some sort of force that's applied over a distance. And when we think of resistance exercise, we think that the distance is generally constant. So if you do a back squat, you're always going to be back squatting the same distance, and so the force is what's going to vary to change the amount of work that's done. A force is mass times acceleration, and acceleration during weightlifting is going to be the force that's applied by gravity, which is a constant 9.8 meters per second squared. So as mass increases, force increases because acceleration is constant. So with an increase in mass, we think that this would be correlated with an increase in strength. So force is approximately equal to strength for our purposes. And we established that strength is maintained under sleep restriction, so therefore force is also maintained under sleep restriction. If force and distance are constant, then work is also a constant. So if total power is decreasing and work is remaining constant, then that means that time in this denominator is increasing in order to decrease power. So the loss in power is due to an increase in time. While high intensity exercise is not directly impacted by sleep restriction, high intensity exercise does affect our sleep. High intensity exercise has been shown to increase the onset to sleep. So essentially it takes you a longer amount of time to actually fall asleep, and a longer amount of time to start sleeping means that you get less total sleep. The last consideration in regards to training and how a lack of sleep affects that performance is that submaximal weightlifting tasks were significantly negatively affected by sleep restriction. So essentially, anytime that you're doing several sets of multiple repetitions with a submax load, which we know that's the majority of our training, those things will be negatively affected by a sleep restriction. If you're chronically not getting enough sleep, the majority of your training will be negatively affected. Component number 2 to athletic performance associated with sleep is recovery. A big contributor to our recovery is the concentration of our hormones. So 2 hormones that are extremely important to the mobilization of fatty acids and building lean muscle tissue are testosterone and growth hormone. And non-rapid eye movement sleep patterns are associated with the production of testosterone and an increase in growth hormone. So having more sleep cycles means that we have more growth hormone and more testosterone, which means that we'll be able to lose body fat easier and build muscle easier as well. Another study found that blood lactate concentration levels increased after sleep restriction, which could also lead to having a decreased amount of volume that the body can handle, because the increase in hydrogen ions is inhibitory to repeated bouts of muscle contraction. And lastly, sleep deprivation is associated with the inability to replete our glycogen stores. And muscle glycogen stores are strongly associated with our ability to complete repeated bouts of exercise, which would also decrease our total training volume. The third component to overall athletic performance is, of course, the psychological component. Sleep deprivation is associated with a decreased ability to regulate one's mood, and a decreased ability to regulate one's mood may lead to an athlete perceiving an exercise to be of a higher exertion level. So essentially, an athlete will not be able to accurately tell what the RPE of a certain exercise is. And if you're using RPE to regulate your training, this could overall lead to lower intensities used and lower volumes being used over time, which could dramatically decrease the results that you get from a program. Sleep is also associated with confusion, heightened depression, and unsurprisingly, sleepiness. And all 3 of those factors can lead to overtraining over long periods of time, because the sympathetic nervous system is hyperactive during those times, which can become symptoms or causes of overtraining. To wrap up this video, one thing that I do want to point out is that all of these studies are observing people who are under extreme levels of sleep deprivation or sleep restriction. So if you're getting an adequate amount of sleep, that is, you're sleeping throughout the night, so a high quality of sleep, and you're also getting, I would say, at least 6 or 7 hours, a lot of this information won't apply to you. However, we see a lot of college-age people not getting enough sleep, and that's a big part of my demographic. Also, our working class tends to be way too high-strung, and we see them not getting a lot of sleep either. So sleep can really not only improve your fitness and help you reach your fitness goals, but it really can change your life if you're not getting adequate sleep now and you start getting it. So in a couple videos from now, I'm going to review a bunch of ways that you can improve your sleep. But for now, I wanted to give you that information so that hopefully I can encourage you guys to start getting better sleep today, because it really can change your life. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, remember to give this video a thumbs up, throw a comment in the comment section below. Let me know that you loved it. It would mean a lot to me. And if you want to learn more from me, you can check me out on Instagram, Nick_Boletto. You can inquire about my coaching services, or you can just say what's up. I'd love to have you over there as well. Thanks for watching the video, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.